morning, everyone. Good morning, grade 11 DRR students. So we are going to discuss about fire hazards. We have already discussed the natural disasters or natural hazards of our community. Remember, we only have landslide and flooding. So we go to the fire hazards. First, we would like to learn what our enemy is about. So what is a fire hazard? It is a condition that favor fire development or growth. It involves oxygen, fuel, and heat. Fire hazards usually involve the mishandling of fuel or heat because if we mishandle a fuel or heat, it would ignite a big fire. Fire or combustion is a chemical reaction between oxygen and a combustible fuel. We will learn that on the next following slides. Source of ignition. In summary, we have the sparks, the flame, and a high temperature. For the sparks, these are when you have two metals or friction-based, diba itong spark? Two heated objects rubbed together is magbuo sang sparks. So, this small dust or small specks from this sparks, if be contacted with paper, other items, will ignite a fire. For a flame, flame is a small baby fire pa lang siya. Flame is a baby fire. But if given or contacted with an item or that is readily paired with another item, it would create a fire hazard. How about the high temperature? Imagine what do you call that? Imagine a bushfire. Not all bushfire came from a man-made situation. For example, or forest fires. There are places that because of too much heat, their dried leaves, will induce a flame and would result in a forest fire. Remember that when you're in your grade 5 and grade 6, you have, on my time, we have tried this magnifying glass because magnifying glass, it's like focusing the heat of the sun to your dried item. Diba? Pag ganun, you will realize that after a few times, magkakaroon ng fire sa focus ng light because the light itself has its own temperature or there is a heat temperature there, diba? So next, the fire triangle. What is this fire triangle? Fire triangle is the composition of our fire. It needs to be present for our fire to be alive, to be completed. Why do we need to learn about it dito sa DRRR? It's because this energy, fuel, and oxygen are all interdependent. What do I mean by interdependent? Without the energy, there will be no fire. Without the fuel and energy and oxygen are there will be no fire. Meaning that if we want to put out a fire, we needed to learn what it is, what's the composition of it. Diba? So, Kung we have energy, fuel, and oxygen, how do we put it out? We can get rid of the oxygen. Remember that when we put fire into the trash bin or trash cans made of metal, we close it. So try to close it. Di ba mag-stop ang fire? That is because the fire triangle is consisting an oxygen. It needed an oxygen. Remember that when you are, di ba pag luto ta, gamit ang kahoy, ginapaypayan ta, so that the fire could grow in a bigger state. That's the reason. Okay. So we have the fire classes, or the types of fires depending from their sources. We have the ordinary, flammable, electrical, metals, and from the cooking. I don't know if this one will be discussed here. If it's not, I will just have a follow-up. Okay, so for the Class A fires, we have, these are fires coming from the garments, the paper, and the wood. Remember that this is the normal sources of fire sa house natin, diba? Like we didn't, and we actually use these items to have certain fire or flame. So that is a Class A fire depending on the resources or the sources of the fire. Next, we have the Class B fire. What are these? These are the flammable gases. This is those we have a warning signs. Kerosene, gasoline, those are the Class B fires depending on the source. Pag ito, for example, nasunog ang isa ka gasolinahan. What kind of fire does it produce? What type of fire does it produce? Diba it came from a flammable gas? Therefore, it's a Class B fire. Next is a type of fire wherein ang source niya is from the electrical shocks or sparks or mis-circuit. Nakikita natin to, diba, pag brown out. The reason why we got to brown out is because there is a electric short circuit nga ginatawag nila, diba? There is a spark of electricity somewhere in the Socoteco lines. That's why naga-automatic off na siya. Because the electricity sometimes ang travel blast ng electricity is bigger than the cable. Kaya siya nagkakaroon ng ganyan. That is a Class C fire. Pag ang source niya is from the electricity. Next is Class D fires. Class D fires is coming, or the source of it is the metals. Why is that? Diba nakita nyo man na sa welding, if you were going to put a metal or an iron to a heated object, or if isugbahon mo ang metal or iron, di ba it becomes a fire itself. It becomes a heated item. Therefore, it's a Class D fire. Now, next, we think of the source of fire hazards and the fuels of it. What do you mean by fuels regarding the fire triangle? It could be from the solid. Anong ginamean by fuel dito sa fire triangle? kumbaga, what it keeps going. It's not just talking about the liquid and the gases. So we have fuels are from solid, liquid, and gases. We have the kerosene, the wood example, and the gases from such item. For example, also in the gases is yung sa sprays. Ang tawag sina. What do you call that? Gasol. Okay, next. Source of fire hazard, failure of electrical systems and equipment, lightning strikes, lightning good, lightning and thunderstorms. Lightning, if it will be struck, your house will be struck, and your house is made of nipa hut, that probably would ignite a fire. Next is hot surfaces, furnaces and chimneys. Because why? Heated temperature. It is a source of fire. Hot engines and heated surface. So next we will learn how to use fire extinguisher. Because we already learned what are the different types of fire, we are going to learn about how to actually make it stop or dilute and remove it. So we have the fire extinguisher. This is our superhero. So the fire in all classes are the villain. Ito na si superhero natin. So this one is called pin and seal. These are the gauze, the hose, and the nozzle. This is the inspection tag. So how to use a fire extinguisher? So we have to remember the pass. P-A-S-S. First, we pull the pin. There is a pin here for us to unlock it. Pull the pin in the handle. Aim the nozzle, this one. Aim the nozzle at the base of the fire. Then squeeze the lever slowly, this one. And then sweep from side to side. What do you mean by sweep from side to side? You move your nozzle and the hose from side to side. So that is how to use our fire extinguisher. Types of fire extinguisher. Know your extinguishers and types and applications. We have a water extinguisher. This is the reason why we need to know what are the class of fires. This one, water fire extinguisher, is for our normal class type of fire. That is our class A, remember? Next is we have foam fire extinguishers. This is good for fabric and liquid fires. Next is the powder fire extinguishers. This is good for gases also. As you can see, lahat sila, they add another and another, pero they are covering the other kind of fires below them. Kasi ito siya, electrical and gases na siya. But it can still take on a fire from those who are a normal fire. Next is we have carbon dioxide extinguisher. This is mainly for flammable liquids, gas, and electrical fires. Next is wet chemical. This is good for wood, paper, fabric, cooking oils, and deep fat fires ang nakalagay. So, actually, it is do not use on electrical. This wet chemical extinguisher cannot be used on electrical. So, this is our superheroes of fires. We have this water extinguisher, foam extinguisher, powder extinguisher, carbon dioxide extinguisher, wet chemical extinguisher. Okay, next, the discussion of extinguisher. So, Class A fire extinguisher. It contains mainly water fires involving ordinary combustible like paper, wood, and cloth, and most plastics. Remember that this is what is this? Class A fires or Class A fire extinguishers or water extinguishers. Next, we have Class B fire extinguishers. Uses dry chemicals to put out fires caused by gasoline, oil, and solvents. Next is Class C fire extinguishers. Contain carbon dioxide for use against electrical fires. Because you need to know what are your class fires so that you can have a right type of extinguishers. So Class D's fire, spray dry powder on a combustible metals like magnesium, titanium, aluminum, sodium, and potassium. Class K fire is a wet potassium acetate based low pH agent to put out cooking fires in which there are animal or vegetables oil and fats. Because cooking fires, medyo thick ang consistency like the oil, mahirap siyang, the kind of fire that it produces is medyo, kumbaga, hindi siya nipis, but medyo damol nga fire balahaw. Next is, so si Class A, Class A, ano ang makaput out sa paper, wood, or Class A fires is the fire extinguisher, foam extinguisher, dry powder, and wet chemical. So these are the kung anong pwede sa kind of class fires nila. So you read it. For the flammable liquids, we can have the foam, dry powder, and the CO2 fire extinguishers. For the flammable gases, we have the dry powder only. Next is flammable metals, dry powder, electrical equipment, dry powder, and CO2. Deep fat fryers is this the wet chemical used on extremely high temperatures. Okay, next. Fire detection devices. So as our technology is growing, as our years go by, we are having an innovative actions for us to be safe on fires. We have smoke detectors, requires the flow of air in order to work well. Okay, smoke detectors, why do it needed air? Because it's mainly about the smoke, diba? So the smoke, usually, makikita nyo na it was normally placed in the kitchen. And makita natin, diba, sa movies, na if a smoke detector detects smoke, some others would automatically spray a water. So that is a smoke detector. Next is heat detectors. Detects fires where there is no smoke, activated by the significant increase of temperature associated with fire. I think that is explained well. Next is flame detectors. React to the movement of flames. Ito si flame detectors. Here in the Philippines, wala abita sang gawagid sang flame detectors. Usually, the smoke detectors and the heat detectors ang pinaka-common and popular. This one. This is the smoke detector. Oops. Heat detector. So, what is the don'ts? The smoke is extremely thick. The fire is too hot for you to get. What is the don'ts? What do you mean by this? You don't go to a certain house that is burning if ganito na ang situation. The smoke is extremely thick already. How can you breathe? The fire is too hot. Basi layo pa lang, mabatok ka na. The fire is greater than 3 feet across. That is already a big fire. There are potentially hazardous substances near the fire because pwede kasi mag-react sila into the heat that is coming from the fire. Pwede may sumabog, pwede may mas mag-ignite sang bigger fires. You do not have the correct type of fire extinguishers for the fire at hand. What type of fire ang nandun so that you can have the right type of extinguisher? What if that is an electric, as the source of that fire is electricity? Baka basahan mo sang tubig. Then, di ba sila? Water, electricity can travel to water. You do not know how to use the fire extinguisher. Yes, on your grade 12, meron daw kayong ganito, hands-on. Do's. What do you need to do when there is a fire? Call the fire department. Pag hindi na gid makaya ha, call the fire department, begin evacuating others, turn off the gas valve, make sure that this is turned off ha. Kasi baka it would ignite the fire bigger and faster. Meet at pre-assigned meeting place. Make sure that all persons have safely escaped. When the fire department arrives, inform a firefighter if anyone is missing. Do not re-enter the building yourself because firefighters are trained to the actual scenario and they have the better equipment. Regularly check electrical equipment and maintain proper fire safety equipment. Actually, we should have this. Follow correct steps to put out fires and evacuate the building. So, we have an activity, search for fire and emergency plan symbols. This is your performance task for this week. Draw a floor plan, blueprint of your home. Make a fire escape plan for your home with the help of the fire and emergency plan symbols. Remember to search for fire and emergency plan symbols and follow this activity. Then, in additional instruction, you need to submit a video explaining and presenting your work. Your work will be graded on the matter and the manner of delivering your evacuation plan. Remember to have this fire and emergency plan symbols, okay? For example, this one. Ito ang kanilang bahay. Malaki ang bahay nila. So, she decided to put a fire extinguisher here. First aid kits are scattered, of course. Next, we have fire alarms, emergency phone, emergency contact information, fire alarms, and fire blanket. These are the symbols, fire symbols. Ito siya. Next is you can also have a kind of this one. As long as, sabi ko, your presentation could be kung hindi ka medyo magaling dito sa because sa drawing, you can have it kasi my judging would be 50% matter. What do you mean by matter? What is the inside of your presentation? Tama ba ang imong fire symbols? Ada ba ang imong fire symbols? Something like that. Sakto ba? Something like that. And matter, way of delivering. How do you convey your evacuation plan? So like this one, this is called the windows, the blue ones. Look at this. So this is her primary escape path. This one is the normal escape path niya, dasig lang. Tapos mag-meet lang sila. Remember, you need to have a meeting place. Or, you can have a secondary path if you can't have this, the red. You can follow from this one and go out as long as you meet here. So, the deadline of our performance task is on, what day is today? Thursday. So, Thursday next week is the deadline of this one. Remember, your performance task is 60%. Make sure that if you submit a file, if through USB, make sure that it has an apelyido on it so that I could compile it para hindi madula. Or if you will send it to my messenger, it's okay also. So this is the end of our discussion. God bless you and study well. This is not just study by the head. This is actually a study and needs to be applied. Remember your lesson, and this is for you. Thank you.